Back to the class, everyone. Today we have a pretty exciting video. I'm actually going to get it going right away here. We'll kind of talk through how this was done, how you can replicate it, and maybe most importantly, how you can keep this from happening to you. So you can obviously see here we are taking our Wampa versus AC. This is not the best comp, and that does need to be addressed, and it will be addressed. But it's also not the worst comp. On top of that, there are a few things that are very specific in the modding that need to be looked to. So first off, let's go ahead and address the enemy team comp. So there are a few things in here that are a little bit sketchy. Number one, C has 190k health, which is going to be really, really hard to take down. And most people, when they initially see that, they have the impression that you are going to need to be consistently landed healing immunity to kill Sith Eternal. Not a thing. You will see here towards the end of the battle, we are consistently not getting healing immunity, and it doesn't change a thing. Eventually, Wampa is able to stack up his damage enough so that he just slaughters everyone. Other thing we need to look at, a really critical character on the enemy team that is really, really strong, that is honestly a major risk factor to this, but wasn't enough for this battle, is Marauder. Marauder on his special is going, whenever he crits, he's going to be lowering our max health. If you can do this enough times, not only does our max health drop significantly, but our bonus protection that is built off of max health is also going away, meaning that after his first or second hit, you might be vulnerable to die. The other characters that I want to talk about, and a few that aren't even here, are ones that have critical debuffs on basics. What you need to watch out for, and what can be problematic. So Count Dooku was here. He has ability block on basic that's very, very problematic, as well as Sidious. So Sidious has healing ability on basic. Both of those can go very downhill for the Wampa if they land. One of the things that we did with our Wampa is we have a little bit of tenacity on him. Not actually even for this battle, just for Iden. Actually, we try to have enough tenacity on him that he doesn't get stunned by any Iden out there. That does become a little bit helpful in the very, very beginning of this match because we're able to resist the initial ability block, we're able to start getting to our specials, and eventually just start taking down the team. So yeah, you need to watch out for characters that have critical debuffs on their basics, because Wampa will start stacking tenacity, but if it happens on the first turn, you don't have any tenacity stacked and you could be vulnerable to it. It's especially important to check this out because C grants potency all of his allies, including Sith. So again, Sidious and Dooku, gotta watch out for that. You gotta make sure your Wampa isn't at 100% disadvantage, because if those debuffs are guaranteed, you don't win this. The last thing that I should mention, and this is pretty important, is that Wampa on the other team was really relevant. Arguably, he was helpful to our cause. We needed him to be there to win. Or we didn't need him to be there, but we needed other good characters to not be there to not win. If you're wanting to stop this, just throw Darth Revan, Malik, Treya, or Nihilus. Not all four, but any one of those four in here, and the Wampa will not have a chance. Isolate, Annihilate, Unresistible Fear, all of that will absolutely just crush the Wampa. So again, if you're wanting to use this, be very wary of the comps that you're fighting, be wary of tenacity, and there are some other comments that I want to make in regards to the mod. We'll get to that here in a second. I'll show you guys at least the mods on Sith Emperor, and then as well as the mods on my Wampa to show you guys kind of where you can measure when this is going to work and when this is not going to work. I really don't want to try to sell this as like a catch-all counter where your Wampa is going to kill any C ever and that you're going to do magical things to every GL. No, that's not the case, but this can work under certain circumstances. So first off, let's look at the enemy modding. This is the Sith Eternal that we fought. He is jacked full of health. He's got about 190k health. This is the norm nowadays. He's also R8. I'm not sure if that makes a huge difference. Doesn't have a whole lot of speed. He only has 100 and really doesn't have any offense. I'm guessing that offense is just from like the offense primary here. So that's their C. A lot of health mod. Again, this is why we don't need to mod Wampa for potency, because there's really no point. Like, if you don't need the healing immunity to kill him, and you can eventually just stack up enough, it is what it is. Marauder has really, really, really bad mods. I don't think this is super critical, because ultimately we know that Marauder is wildly limited in his damage if there are not a ton of debuffs on the field, which in this fight there really just aren't, just because of the nature of the fight. You only have one enemy. There aren't any characters that can put out a lot of debuffs, and if they can only get them on one character. So Marauders, I mean, I'm not going to try to pretend this is good, it's not, but at the end of the day, even a well-modded Marauder is not going to do a lot of damage. The real issue is lowering our max health by 15%, and it can't be resisted. So he crits, that's an issue. Now, the Dooku was pretty standard modding. Speed and potency, also not great mods. The speed's fine, but he had 120% potency, or rather 128. And again, with C's leadership, this is going to be adding in an extra 60% potency. So the Count Dooku at the very beginning of this fight had almost 200% potency. That's pretty much all we're going to look at the mods. The other two characters are really irrelevant. We are going to look at my Wampa. How is my Wampa modded to be able to take this down? Because I do believe the modding here is crucial. And I think what I'm doing is just a little bit different with what everyone else does. We are modded for just a little bit of tenacity. I have a set in a primary to get us to 125%. I think that's really important for Iden. That being there, you also have to remember that he gains stacking 30% every single hit. So any hit that is going to do damage, and also the debuff, you're working with 30% extra potency there. So Iden, for example, she goes out and she shoots you, you gain 30% tenacity, and then she tries to stun. The way our Wampa is right now, there currently is not an Iden in-game that can stun us on that opening shot, or really any shot at all. So we have him with that, and that also helps guard against Dooku. So we have an extra 100% via the Omicron, and then we're getting hit by both C before Count Dooku comes in, so that's another 60%. We have a 285% tenacity. So even though our opponent Dooku had about 188% tenacity, he only had a 3% chance to ability block us. So that was major in this fight, because if he would have landed the ability block, we would have been done. Other thing that I think is really important that I don't see anybody doing: defense sets on Wampa. We are all talking about his health, that it's a big deal, because you want to have a higher health pool, because that is what affects your protection up, and that's how you stay alive. But it's equally as important to make sure your defense is high, so that the damage reduction on your health and your protection up isn't being taken down quite as much. That being said, health primaries. Health primaries are the way to go all the way around, obviously except for not the tenacity, but health primary here as well. Defenses, I think all the stats, I think this exact modding is really what we needed to be able to take that team down. Again, a little bit of tenacity, just to make sure Sidious and Dooku can't land any of their detrimental debuffs on that opening hit. Defense sets and health primaries to be able to tank it. And yeah, just got to make sure that your opponent does not put down any super strong characters like Traya or Malak or whatever, and you should have a good time. Have fun whomping away in your Wampa solo versus C. And until the next time, stay awesome.